Welcome, everyone, to another edition of Standalone, where we go from being ordinary to extraordinary. How do we take our lives, what's been given to us, and then rise it and raise our standards to a whole different level of living? In my journey, I'm really blessed to be able to come across some incredible people. And today in our presence, we have Mario Brainovic. So, in terms of getting in touch with the health side of our journey, the business side of our journey, I think we're going to find that you're an expert in both of these areas. And I want the audience to understand your company because I think you're on the brink, if not ahead, of something so major right now, something that I've personally experienced in my life that has had dramatic positive effects. And so I wanted to share this with everyone today. I'm talking about water. Like, how could water give us dramatic positive effects when it's always been around? It's always been a part of who we are, but we're not tapping into it at a level, maybe because we're not aware of its powers. And if today, Mario, we can help to increase people's awareness about the power that's within us and around us, I think that will be a job well done on both of our parts, but mainly from you, because you are an incredible entrepreneur. You're the CEO of New Earth Technologies. I want to talk about what you do, your journey of getting to where you are, your amazing company. Correct me if I'm saying this improperly. Analemma, is that how you pronounce the water?
Yes, Analemma actually is the same, but
Analemma?
Analemma is totally okay. Yeah.
Okay, you say it. Tell me how to say it.
Analemma is actually power symbol of the
Okay.
sun. If you actually take a photo of the sun from a single spot on the planet for 365 days, you're actually going to get this infinity sign on the sky. This is actually called Analemma. We realize that
Analemma.
the water changes every single day electromagnetically due to position of the earth towards the sun. That's why we called it Analemma.
Okay, I love this. And for our audience, we're a lot of business go-getters. We want to take our lives to a whole different level. I always want to integrate health topics to business entrepreneurs because for a lot of us, when we start our journey as an entrepreneur, Mario, we are very neglectful of our health. And then unfortunately, what happens is a crisis or a moment where we get checked, and then we start looking into how do I get better? But if we can get ahead of it and we can integrate great health into our practices, I think that's how we can really not just have a long life, but a well lived life. And so I wanted to just get your expertise on your background as an entrepreneur. You've built some successful companies and businesses. You understand the power of the body, the mind, and the spirit. You had a natural pharmaceutical company. So tell me about your journey. Like, what made you become an entrepreneur and then evolve to this place where now you're the CEO of New Earth Technologies and you have this beautiful company that's doing some groundbreaking research also with the power of water.
Thank you so much, Sabrina. And first, I would just like to thank you for inviting me here to this space because I love to talk about both subjects, health and wellness. And also, I truly believe that we need to change how people work, how people have business in the world today, because we really need to elevate that as well. So thank you so much for having me. Yeah, I had an interesting journey. I had actually already built 4 companies up until now. All of them were in 1% most successful companies.
Wow.
I'm kind of very driven person. I love, and I believe this is truly, truly, truly important. Whenever you're kind of aligned with yourself, whenever you're following, there is a great quote which I love from Rumi, a Persian poet. He said, whenever you do things from your soul, you feel a river moving in you, a joy. I always follow that because when you're in harmony with this place within you, then the power that comes with it will take care of all of the obstacles. So you're enjoying the journey, so to speak, not only the destination. So anyhow, I opened back in the day advertising company and a production house, and I did that for many years, and I really loved it. And I did a lot of work both in Europe and in States, and it was super gratifying thing to do. But my heart always felt this. I was always very passionate about health and wellness. I always kind of felt and knew that that our bodies are made perfect, so to speak, that there is this innate, extraordinary potential of our bodies to repair itself, to heal itself. And I was always interested in finding ways to assist that natural process in powerful ways. This led me to opening, as you mentioned, a natural pharmaceutical company through which I helped thousands of people. And I was super, super, super grateful for that. Because, you know, when you help people and when people heal, I mean, there aren't so many things that can give you that sense of joy. You
Joy.
know,
Yeah.
when people are helped in a way, you know, when they get healthy and better, I really loved it. So anyhow, I did this. I built this company for 10 years or something like that. And after a while, decided to sell it to Walgreens. So I sold the whole company. And after that, I was I was thinking, if I'm ever going to work again, I definitely want a project that it's going to be for the highest good of all, something that will help people, something that will help animals, something that will help plants, something that will help environment. It was a very tall order, but Analemma project checked all the boxes. So I'm super grateful to be part of this project now for years. And I brought my expertise from many levels into the whole project. And I did double-blind placebo-controlled studies where it proved extraordinary effect of this water for the health and wellness, again, not just people, not just animals, not just plants, but the environment as a whole. And we can actually go into all of those details because it's extraordinary thing to and I always invite people when I talk about business, if you are doing something that actually helps somebody, if you're doing something that truly makes a difference in people's lives, you're going to be supported by something which is much larger than yourself.
Yeah, it's amazing how like resources will flow to you when you
Yes.
are on a mission for something greater. You know, when you think about or why I started with the premise of standalone, it has nothing to do with being alone, because we need people, we need our environment, we need so much support around us. But then inside of us, we have to be able to stand strong. We have to, you know, what our beliefs are, what our convictions are. So when the world maybe is saying something opposing, we can still stand true to something that we feel is tugging inside of us. And we don't necessarily know what it is, but it's something that we have to pursue. I think this happened to you in business. It happens to a lot of very successful people in business where you put in decades and something's pulling at you. Like, I feel like there's something else, there's something more. You know, for before we get into the water and the science, which I absolutely love, I wanted to talk about your ability to commit to a process to see things through because a lot of people today, Mario, they think like, well, you know, so this is your third business. Okay, great. I can start something, stop something, start another thing, do four businesses at the same time. And unfortunately, that's not how it goes. It takes commitment, it takes resolve, it takes seeing something through to the end. Could you speak on your expertise about this to our audience so people don't just get kind of like fooled into thinking like I can do it all? Yes, but not all at the same time. So, how do we unpack that from your level of expertise in building all these successful businesses in all these different areas, which I think is incredible?
I agree with you 100%, just so you know. And it requires this, you nailed it. You really said it the way it needs to be said. I can only share my experience. Well, I'm relentless.
Love it.
So when you take something, um, I'm like a dog with a bone. I'm not letting go until it's done. Sometimes, you know, my wife is having issues with me because I'm relentless that way. I really kind of go in and all in, and I don't stop until it's done.
Mhm.
And so, from that perspective, it really helped me getting the job done, so to speak. So I understand what you're saying. There needs to be a balance there. And it was a balancing act for me to kind of start to listen to my environment, because at one point in time, I started to listen to this inner voice and I didn't listen to anything outside. I was really kind of hyper focused. That helped me and it really kind of brought a lot of rewards. But at the same time, through time, I started to listen more, not just to myself, but I started to listen to everything and everyone around me in a profound way, which allowed me to be more balanced. So this is a balancing act, and both are important. But I would definitely say if somebody is really going to be successful in business, they really need to be hyper focused. So you have a vision, and you just kind of have a tunnel thing when you're zero in on the whole thing and you just go all in. But it's a process of joy. I don't believe when people are hyper focused and they lose energy. For me, it was actually a different experience. If I'm listening to the inner movement, what I call an inner movement of divine will, I'm going to call it that way. This is just, I'm a spiritual person, so I always listen to that. When I feel this in me, when I feel that there is extraordinary importance of something, then I have the energy. Then I have this commitment, and I'm not going to kind of lose my focus. If it's just about me, then the energy of it is actually much smaller, so to
Yeah.
speak. So I always say to people, if you're going to, we all have an opportunity to choose. I always say choose something that actually helps someone in some way, because then you are going to be supported by something much, much, much larger than yourself. And not only that, I can tell you from my experience, when you're doing it from this particular way, there are going to be gazillion synchronicities. I can honestly say that it's not me.
Yeah.
Things start to happen. I just show up. I always show up. This is my commitment. But I can tell you that it wasn't me, small me, that built this, so to speak. When you are flowing with this energy that we're all a part of, then this energy starts to work through you. And then many, many beautiful and amazing things happen. And you're actually living in awe of what's happening. That's why I'm saying in whole Analemma project, I can mention this, that in our company, we feel that we are serving this water. It's not the other way around. Because when you witness such extraordinary effects on human lives, on animal lives, on plant lives, on environment, you cannot consider it just as a business that serves me. No, I want to do this project justice. I want to do whatever is in my power to get the message across in the most authentic way so that people can feel it. And if they do, they will actually acquire either the product or whatever application, and they get the benefit. This
Yeah.
is what it's all about. It's not about anything else.
Yeah, and I think too, just to like add to that, when you say it's not me, I would just say you're a part of the equation, but it's
Of
not
course.
just you, right?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
That's what a lot of people for that's the beauty of business. Like business doesn't exist without you and a customer. So when you can see the connectedness of everything and how it works together, that's such a beautiful thing. So for you, I don't think there is something that connects humans, plants, the world, our environment more than water. And so I wanted for us to like take a step back before we start going into the hyper focused science behind what you do. One of my background is in science, so I love reading about this, but I also know that science overwhelms people. And then,
Mm.
it can be something where they just don't understand it, so they don't believe. But what I've found is that, it's things that we know to be true. And then science is like then proving what we have been saying for all this time, which is a beautiful thing, right? So let's dive into this. Your company specializes in structured water. You know, for a lot of us, like the depth of our understanding of water is H2O, and some people don't know what that means. Like, so it's two hydrogen molecules attached to an oxygen molecule. So, in my opinion, I'm thinking that's the structure of water. But can you go a little bit more deeper? What is actually the like structured water? What does that mean?
So our research actually clearly proved that water currently exists in what we call a chaotic state. So you said it clearly. It's H2O. It's a kind of that's a molecule. But the thing is, when we say the water is chaotic, those same H2O molecules, they're actually in drinking water. They're moving randomly. They're crashing into each other constantly. But since all of this is actually happening on an atomic level, nobody's really aware. And that chaos has a profound effect on our biology, even though we're completely unaware of that. So we realized that there is a way to bring harmony into that chaos. When you use our technology, what happens is that those same chaotic H2O molecules, they start to link together and they start to form this liquid crystalline structure. They enter in what we call a coherent state. So you're not having a chaos in the water. All of those molecules start to move together as one. And through this unique process, water becomes alive. It actually becomes empowered and it can do so much for our health and wellness. This is the way we believe nature intended for water to be. And we actually did many double-blind placebo-controlled studies, which it's really powerfully measurable to see the effect on human biology. But to explain it in a simple way that people can understand at least the concept. For instance, if you take a 5-watt light bulb, it will give you some light. But if you take 5-watt laser, which is a coherent form of light, you can actually, so it's the same power, you can drill a hole through your table. So laser is a coherent form of light. We're here talking about coherent form of water. True power of water is being unleashed through this unique process.
I love this. I think for people to understand, what we're talking about is the behavior of the water, right?
Yes.
It's just like humans. We're similar in our structure and our composition, but we behave differently. And I think what you're doing is you're bringing order to the water. Um,
Yes.
so if you can explain to me, like, how did you discover this? Was this your discovery or was this I know that there was a scientist, if you can talk about that, and
Yes.
then how you attached yourself to it and how we're bringing this to the world. Like, how did that happen?
It's really interesting. Actually, the whole back in the day, I actually came to the project um, more than several years ago now. But it started with Dr. Eric Clark. He's actually the inventor of Analemma Water, and Dolph Zantinge. They actually picked up the whole lab from a famous German scientist, Dr. Fritz Albert Popp. He actually developed this technology which can capture biophotons. So every single living thing exudes these tiny particles of light. And you need very sophisticated technology that can capture every single biophoton. He developed it. So the more biophotons a biological system exudes, more vitality it has. So early on in our research, we actually had a 1-acre greenhouse in the Netherlands where we were playing with plants and their growth and water. And we realized when you changed water, biophoton emission of plants rise beyond dramatically. So this was a key element in our early research where we realized, okay, there is something biologically remarkable happens when you expose biological systems to different kinds of water. For instance, our tomatoes that were grown with Analemma water, they exude anywhere between 60 and 200% more light than tomatoes that were grown with regular water. So the vitality of that tomato is off the charts. And if you
Mhm.
eat that tomato, then you actually see the extraordinary difference it brings to your own cells. So this is where we started. This is where we saw, okay, something remarkable happens here. But it actually goes, I'm going to mention one other study that we did early on, which really blew our minds and told us there is something special here. So what we did, we actually took this tiny particle of life, which is a seed. It's just like a smallest form of life you can kind of imagine that you can see. And we watered some seeds with regular water and some seeds with Analemma water. And we measured biophoton emissions. And the seeds that were watered with regular water, we didn't see nothing special. But this is where it gets interesting. As soon as we started watering seeds with Analemma water, we started seeing this sinusoidal shape of peaks and valleys of biophoton emission. It like, it's like this tiny seed started to breathe in a way, light, but in a long form. So it was really peculiar. We didn't know how to explain it, and we connected to other scientists. And after a while, we realized that it followed the tides. So Analemma water connected this tiny piece of life to the circadian rhythm of nature. It connected the seed electromagnetically to its larger environment. Now that was a huge thing for because we really saw, okay, there is a whole web of things that are happening here. And just by exposing this tiny particle of life to Analemma water, something pretty magical happened. This was all of this was actually early on, before we started human studies, before we started everything else. But this was a clear indicator that there was something really special with this water.
This reminds me of what you're talking about with coherence. Like when something is coherent, it means it's aligned. You know,
Yes,
when you have people on your team and they're not aligned or they're not coherent, it's like I'm talking to the wall. Like nothing is penetrating. I don't know why I'm not getting through. And then when you have a group of people that are coherent, they're aligned, it's like you can do so much more. And what you're talking about is like this water going in these waves and connecting with the circadian rhythms of the outer environment. It's aligning and it's becoming whole. And I think that's the power of it.
exactly, exactly, exactly. This is it. Uh, this water is an electromagnetic phenomenon.
Yes. So
So we
explain, this is so good. Explain what electromagnetic phenomenon means.
Okay, then I'm going to jump in the first human study because it's super fascinating.
Yeah.
But we realized in our research that water is always going to pick up the most dominant frequency of its environment, whatever that is. When we realized this, our whole quest was to create the most dominant positive frequency water there is, because we knew if we would expose any other water to it, all the water will become it, because water always picks up the most dominant frequency of its environment. This was
Love
our
that.
quest. And then after a while, through a lot of testing, we came to what we call now the mother water. The water in this very particular state. And what we did, our first application was Analemma wand. What we did, we took mother water, we put it inside a crystal vial, and we just have a holder on the top that you can actually submerge the wand into the water. This crystal wand actually has two purposes. One, of course, to create the barrier between the mother water inside and the rest of the water. But more importantly, it actually serves as a superconductor. In the beginning, we used glass, but glass is not a superconductor, so the frequency of it does not go without loss. But with crystal, the frequency of the mother water goes everywhere without any loss. So anyhow, when you take the wand and you start swirling through the glass of water, any H2O molecule that comes into close proximity to the mother water starts to mimic its exact structure, since water always picks up the most dominant frequency of its environment. So in reality, when you swirl the Analemma wand through your glass of water, you, after 30 seconds, you actually get a glass of mother water. And when you drink this water, then all of the effects in the biology happens. And just so you know, this is something that most people aren't aware. We're 70% water in mass, our bodies. But what most people aren't aware, that 99% of our molecules are actually water. We only have 1% of heavy molecules. All the other molecules are actually very light water molecules. If you can imagine, we are more water than the ocean. Ocean has 96.5% molecules water. The rest are salts and all the other elements. So that off the bat tells you there is something very important about water that we haven't paid too much attention to. So this actually explains the fast effect of this water on our biology. When you drink the mother water, because water always picks up the most dominant frequency of its environment, and 99% of our molecules are water, as soon as you drink positive dominant frequency water, all of your molecules respond in a very fast manner. Now we can actually jump to the first human study that we did, which is really extraordinary. As I mentioned, I explained that the electromagnetic phenomenon. We were kind of thinking, okay, what is the most electromagnetic part of our biology? Something that we can really accurately measure. Brainwaves. Our brainwaves are electromagnetic in nature. And through QEEG, you can very accurately measure any changes. So what we did a double-blind study with actually genetically identical twins. It's a golden standard study because you have two genetically identical twins, so you can kind of all of the other disturbances that you might have when you have two different individuals, they're actually taken out of the equation. Mm-hmm. So the doctor administering the water didn't know which one was which, and twins didn't know which one was which. We just gave them a glass of water to drink, and we put QEEG equipment on their heads, and we monitored their brain waves. This is where it gets interesting. The twin that actually received regular water took a sip and nothing happened, took a drink of the water and nothing happened. But almost as soon, it was very fast, as soon as the twin took a sip of Analemma water, there was an almost instant better connection between the left and the right hemisphere of the brain, and almost instant harmonizing effect on the brain waves. And this is very powerfully to observe. This was the first irrefutable evidence there is something biologically remarkable happening when people drink this water. 3 weeks later, we repeated the experiment, but we gave Analemma water to the other twin. And we saw exactly the same phenomenon because these are two genetically identical twins. So we saw the same thing happening, this delta coherence happening in the brain waves, while the first twin now drank regular water and there was a zero effect. So this was a powerful indicator that something in a very fast manner changes just by taking a couple of sips of Analemma water. This was our first human study.
Yeah, it's so I have two questions. Before, like, how does the water in the wand, like, how is the integrity of that mother water always protected so it never loses its dominant force?
It's very, thank you for this question. This is a really important question. That's why we mentioned when we went on a quest to create the most positive dominant frequency,
yes,
it was the one. So we were testing and retesting and retesting until we found that particular frequency that usually, when you, one way of testing it, if you take a glass of water and put it next to a Wi-Fi router, we realized that all this man-made EMF, they actually put water into deeper chaos. But with Analemma water, that doesn't happen. Wow. It's so resilient that it actually maintains its structure without any loss. We actually did a study on that as well, where we gave people actually cell phones and we monitored their brain waves, and every single person using the cell phone, their brain waves actually went to chaotic state. And then we gave a regular water and Analemma water to some. we saw the same thing. As soon as they took a sip of Analemma water, there was an instant harmonizing effect on the brain waves, while the other people that drank regular water didn't experience this. So this is the way you know
Mhm.
the resilience of the water. And not only that, I have to also emphasize this. You asked actually a very good question, because there are several companies that created some form of structured water, and we tested basically all of them. And there is a change in water, but that change actually persists anywhere between a couple of minutes and day and a half. Then the water molecules break and they go back to chaos. But with Analemma water, since we created this extraordinary dominant positive frequency, after just one treatment, we're now testing for 6 consecutive years. It never actually went out of its state of coherence. It's so resilient that it never goes back to chaos. That's where its power is, actually.
I hope people are hearing your words, because when you think about, like, this reminds me of people's personalities, like how when you see successful people, they're just incredibly resilient to chaos. Like all this stuff that you're saying, it just really, really applies. As you were speaking, I was doing a lot of research into Alzheimer's and understanding like what happens in the brain. And it's really, they're calling it now diabetes of the brain. And what they're saying is, there's things that can prevent it, but the causes are diet. And one of them is just, poor nutrition and dehydration. And so I think what's incredibly important for people to understand is even this water, it kind of solves both of those problems. Because even though we could be eating a tomato, like you said, we're not really getting as much nutrients out of it. I heard also in listening and studying about you that it also replenishes the soil for people that are into farming right now. I know that you sell devices to help bring better water to the piping of people's homes. Like why does even our soil matter? Because we can have a good seed, we still need good soil. How does it replenish the
Oh,
soil?
it's this is also an extraordinary study that we did, because we actually we want to change the whole agriculture game on this planet as well, because people aren't aware of this. But spinach 15 years ago had 80% more nutrients than spinach today. That's appalling.
That's
So you have
crazy.
to you have to eat so much more spinach just to have the same nutrient count that you had 15 years ago. This is
Yeah.
terrible by any standard. And this is all happening because of whole mass agriculture game that we're doing, and we're not allowing the soil to rest and replenish. We're just using, reusing, and after a while, you just cannot grow anything on it. But anyhow, this was our quest to see what's going to happen. We took completely destroyed, barren piece of soil that you cannot grow anything on. So it was just dead. Through the use of glyphosate, through the use of various large agri chemicals, it was just dead. So one part we water with regular water, and one part we water with Analemma water. And the part that was water with regular water, we didn't see nothing. Again, it was dead. After 2 months, it was dead, just like in the beginning. But the part that was water with Analemma water, there was huge explosion in biodiversity of the microbiome of the soil, so much so that this new bacteria started to grow in the soil. They started to suck CO2 out of the atmosphere into the soil where it belongs, because CO2 is actually the fuel both for plants and for bacteria and for the soil. But it didn't stop there. The whole nitrogen cycle got upgraded, and total nitrogen in soil increased dramatically. So much so that within only 2 months, that piece of soil became fertile again. And there is another element that happened, which is really extraordinary. Usually when the rain falls, the nutrients from the top layer of the soil goes to deeper layers. But when you water the soil with Analemma water, there is a huge retainment of those minerals and nutrients in the top layer of the soil where the plant can actually use it. So all of these nutrients actually end up again in the fruit, in the veggie. And when you use and eat that veggie, now you're actually getting extraordinary benefit, the way nature intended to begin with. So this was the study that we did on soil, and we actually want to change. We actually did many now plant studies. We're actually going to publish one study now in tier one scientific magazine, peer-reviewed, because the science is really refutable, and the effect it has. This water makes plants so resilient, especially to stress. So when you're stressing out the plant, either through what we did is we created a short-term drought with plants. So we wanted to see how plants recover. And in 20 different parameters, the plants that were watered with Analemma water actually thrived. Even though there was a stressor,
Yeah.
the plant went through it with flying colors, so to speak, which is really going to be important in the years to come, because with the climate change and everything that's happening, we need plants that are going to survive through flooding and droughts and everything that is happening in the environment, because usually there are many problems there. Plants just start dying off. They cannot stand such huge changes in the climate, and then it disrupts the whole system.
Yeah, you're talking about plants. I'm thinking about people. People are the exact same. We're just,
Yeah, I
some
agree with
people
you.
when you see they're not resilient and they go through a stressor, and why does that stress make someone like grow into something amazing because they have more resilience versus someone that the chaos, the stress, it just engulfs them and just takes them out. I love this. I think it's amazing when you can see how all of nature, all of our behaviors, everything is just so connected.
Everything, yes, everything is
Yeah.
part of one whole. This is what I love that you notice this, because whatever you see anywhere is part of the whole thing. Whatever we saw in plants, we saw in humans, we saw
Yeah.
in animals, we saw in the environment. So
Yeah.
everything, we are all part of this one whole. So, and I love how poetic it is actually, how these water molecules, how coherence is teaching us. We are now living in a chaotic world. We're like those same chaotic H2O molecules. We're moving randomly, crashing into each other all the time. But there is a way, if we, colloquially speaking, join hands, just like H2O molecules in coherent water do, then we
Yeah.
start moving in unity. And then our
Yeah.
true power is actually being unleashed. And then the experience of life actually becomes entirely different.
Well, I study a lot about leadership, and this is why I love what you're saying about that dominant force of water, because I've always said that leadership is a responsibility. As strong as we are heavily influenced by those that are closest to us. So when you have someone that's positively dominant, it will affect your life in a great way. When you have someone that is negative, you got to be aware of that and be on guard to that. But if you can maintain your positive state, then you don't have to allow those negative things to affect you, and you can actually see it and walk away from it, which is incredibly powerful.
I agree with you 100%. And I would even say one other thing. If everyone would understand that every single person is a leader, every single person, it's not a matter whether
A
you are or
title.
not.
Yeah.
You are a leader. So now the question is how you are leading,
Yeah.
because people are going to be influenced by you. There is zero chance that you are not going to have an effect on your environment. Now the
Mhm.
question is, you are a leader. Now,
Mhm.
what are you doing with it? That's why I'm saying I love what you just said. That response, it becomes a responsibility. I am a leader at this moment.
Mhm.
How am I leading? Where am I leading? Am I leading people into a better world or not?
Yeah. 100%. Um, I I went on a journey with just, having kids, it changes, especially a woman's body. There's so much that we endure when we have children, and just getting my health back. I started looking into the healing properties of water and how, your body, this is why people should have so much self-respect, because your body is an amazing organism where it has the ability to regenerate, to heal, and to make things better. And I did a couple water fasts, and I just felt like I reversed my age. It was remarkable. Now I'm thinking, Mario, what if I did a water fast with your water? I would be like 20 years younger. What studies have you done any studies with water fasting with your water? I would like to be a guinea pig on that test.
Oh, this is an amazing thing. I love that you mentioned this. Actually, Dr. Mindy Peltz, if you know
Oh
her,
yes, yeah.
I love her.
Right.
She's amazing. She
Yeah.
actually mentioned that we should do this together when we were
I would like to join.
planning.
I
Yeah,
volunteer myself.
water, definitely. We're actually two doctors, Dr. Andrew Kaufman and Dr. Mindy Peltz. We were planning to do a study, but we're doing a lot of things, so we just have to find and actually a slot, a time to do it. But this is extraordinary. We're actually definitely looking into it, the
Yeah.
effects of water fast on Analemma Water.
Yeah.
Because of all of these effects, we definitely believe that the results would be even more phenomenal. Because just like we mentioned, 99% of our molecules are water. And when you drink this water, everything changes. But I'm going to say one other thing. This is a perfect opportunity now, time to kind of jump on our second human study, which is really extraordinary.
Mhm.
So what we, since we knew in our early research that vitality of plants kind of really skyrockets when you expose it to this water, we want to see what kind of measurement can we have with humans to measure the same effect? How can we measure vitality? And we came to ATP, adenosine triphosphate, which is the primary energy currency of our cells. It's directly responsible for powering the majority of cellular processes in our body, including muscle contraction, nerve impulse transmission, biochemical reactions. Every breath, every heartbeat depends on ATP
Mhm.
in our body. So we wanted to see what's going to happen with ATP levels, mitochondrial energy of our body when people drink this water. So we did a double-blind, placebo-controlled study where we measured ATP levels. We actually employed luciferase, which is an enzyme that catalyzes light production in bioluminescent organisms. And due to its extraordinary sensitivity, you can actually very accurately measure ATP levels in humans. So we took a snapshot of ATP levels in participants in the study. Then they drank 1.5 liters of Analemma water per day without changing anything else in the world. So they didn't change their exercise regime, they didn't change their diets. Everything else in their lives stayed the same. The only thing that changed is the water they drank. And after 2 months, we did another snapshot to see whether something actually changed. And we had 20% rise in overall mitochondrial energy of the body over the placebo. When you take in the placebo, that's like almost 1/3. And we are not talking about Red Bull energy here. We're talking about actual mitochondrial energy of the body. And all of this increased just by drinking the water. Implications of that are really huge. Scientists now agree that the key cause of cellular aging is the decline in mitochondrial function. And we proved through this double-blind placebo-controlled study that mitochondrial function increases beyond significantly. So anti-age, health implications, usually most people aren't aware. You know which organ is the biggest spender of ATP in our body?
I want to say the brain, but it's probably the microbiome, your
No,
gut.
no, 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 no.
Oh, okay.
You're actually very right. The
Okay.
brain. Can you
Yeah.
imagine for one neuron to send an impulse to a neighboring cell, it needs to hydrolyze 1 billion ATP molecules, and you have
Wow.
billions of neurons. So 25% of all of our energy expenditure goes to the brain.
Yeah.
So high ATP levels are very much directly connected to high cognitive performance. So if you have
Mhm.
high ATP levels, your cognitive performance works much, much, much better. So this is also one implication of high ATP levels. Usually ATP levels are connected to athletic performance because you can do so much more. But we are
Yeah.
not talking about just muscle performance. We're talking about cognitive performance as well. So this was, again, one study which clearly proved this. You mentioned microbiome. So this is also something that I want to go, because we did a double-blind placebo-controlled study where we proved the profound effect of Analemma water on the state of our microbiome. Usually, you know, in the last couple of decades, this science has made a connection between the state of our microbiome to any area of human health. We're not talking about just digestive health. We're talking about immune health, cardiovascular health, neurological health. This is also very interesting. People are talking about serotonin and its connection to our mood, how we're feeling and perceiving ourselves. Do you know where 95% of serotonin is being created?
In our gut.
In our gut. Can
I
you
know.
imagine this?
I
And
know.
it's being delivered through the gut-brain axis
But yeah.
to the brain. So the state of your microbiome is heavily influencing how you're perceiving the world, how
Yeah.
you're perceiving yourself. Are you anxious? Are you depressed? Are you happy? So all of this can be very, very powerfully connected to the state of our gut. So we did, through our study, we proved, we measured a dysbiosis index of the microbiome. So this biosis index measures the degree of deviation within the microbiome, taking into account all the different bacterial phyla and species and their rank factor. And we proved that there is 17% improvement on the dysbiosis index, but there is more than that. What we saw is this equilibrium effect. You see, you have this positive bacteria and bad bacteria. Bad bacteria release toxins and create havoc in our body, and positive bacteria create beautiful things. We saw that negative bacteria actually went down severely and positive bacteria went up. So again, the effect of this water is extraordinary on basically any level of human biology.
Yeah, I think too, like there's such a great application for people when they do surgeries, for when they get sick and they take antibiotics and it depletes their microbiome. Because one of the powerful things of a water fast, because people say like a water fast is just starvation. Well, the successful water faster knows how to reintroduce the right things back into their gut to rebuild it even stronger. And I could only imagine if you're rebuilding it with the good water, how it's going to then like replenish. But not only that, if we take it to the level of you have antibiotics, then you need to replenish and grow the good bacteria and not grow, you know, the bad bacteria. So, and then
I agree
also
with you.
nutrients.
You
Yeah.
know, the key element, the whole antibiotic story and the microbiome story is much larger. Most people aren't actually even aware of this, but because this is all very much connected to the whole agriculture world, because all large agriculture companies are actually using glyphosate all over the planet. And the problem with glyphosate is that for all intended purposes, it's actually an antibiotic. And people are constantly eating food and constantly reintroducing, without them being aware at all, they're
Yeah.
constantly eating antibiotics. And what does that antibiotic do? It kills the state of your microbiome, and you're
Yeah.
not even aware of it. And there are profound effects on every part of your biology. So treating and finding ways to improve the state of your microbiome is, at this point in time, almost a mandatory thing if person wants to live a healthy life. Without it, you're just going to kind of, even without being aware, you're going to create a ton of problems down the line.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I wanted to ask you about even proper hydration. I think for a lot of people to understand performance is about just optimizing many things. It's not just one thing because we're a system, right? And like how we are in one area, it does have an effect. It has like we have first order, second order, third order consequences and effects. How does the water help with the hydration that, you know, for it to affect the cells on a different level? I know the
I mean,
ATP is huge, but can it also make the cells more efficient so our immune system is working better?
definitely. This is what we actually did. We actually connected, you mentioned biological age. This is something very interesting. This is the study that we connected actually to glycan age.
Yeah.
Glycan age, they're the leaders in glycoscience. So they have actually over 120 published scientific work in the field of glycans. So through the state of glycans, you can actually very accurately measure biological age of people. You can measure the biological age of their immune system, but there is one other effect which is really important. Through this ratio of this pro-inflammatory and anti-inflammatory glycans, you can measure the level of inflammation in the body. And all of the scientists now agree that low systemic inflammation in your body actually is the key cause of all the problems that we're developing through age. So when we connected with glycan age, we wanted to see what's going to happen with the state of glycans and biological age of people when they drink Analemma water. And to cut the long story short, there was a 3-month period. People drank Analemma water, liter and a half Analemma water for 3 months without changing anything else in their world. And almost every single person in the study experienced between 1 and 12 years of biological age rejuvenation within only 3 months. So these guys actually connected through the state of glycans. You can almost definitively see what's going to happen to your overall health and wellness down the line 7, 10, 15 years. And if the glycans change, especially in this fast way, only 3 months, everything that happens after 7 or 10 years is actually being changed now. So this is a powerful effect. That's why I always say that it's very simple and very powerful biohack, so to speak, because you
Yeah.
have to drink water anyhow.
Yeah,
And
totally.
just by drinking the water,
Yes.
you're influencing your brain waves, you're influencing your microbiome, you're influencing your biological age, you're influencing ATP levels and cognitive performance. You're basically influencing your entire biology by doing something that you're doing anyhow.
Yeah. And you need it. It's a non-negotiable. You'll
Yeah,
die without water.
you have to
So
drink it. I agree with you
yeah,
100%.
it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
in sales, you're like, find the need. Well, this is the one that no
Yeah,
one can say they don't need. I wouldn't
agreed.
sign up for that test. You're not going to make it out alive. I love all the extra stuff that it does. I think for people to just understand, we live in a world where if you just think about Wi-Fi, what is Wi-Fi? It's like transferring information. Can you explain how this is like, does water carry the information? How is it working? If you can explain that to us, like, how is it making things better? I would like to know.
It's a brilliant, brilliant, brilliant question. Actually, well, I would say that the greatest scientist of all time, Nikola Tesla, said,
Yeah.
if you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration.
Yeah.
And water, we realized in our research that water is broadband absorber, receiver, and transmitter of energy, frequency, and vibration, and therefore is at the very heart of everything.
Mm-hmm.
How I can also explain this, one of the pioneers of water science is Dr. Masaru Emoto. I don't know, have you heard of him? Japanese scientist. He actually he did this experiments where he just took regular water, freezed it, and photographed its crystals. And then he used the same water and he actually said something over it or actually typed the word over it. And for instance, either love or hate or joy or gratitude, various things. And then he used the same water just by saying it, saying the word or expressing the energy of it over the water. And then again, he froze the water and he photographed the crystals. And crystals were radically different. That's where he realized, okay, water picks up frequency
Yeah.
and it stores frequency. And again, you have to remember 99% of our molecules are water. When you realize this, you realize that it's your responsibility to be kind, because whatever you actually put out there, it gets picked up in a very real way and stored in a very real way in another person. And it has an effect. So when you realize this, you cannot ignore it. You
Mhm.
know that the way you show up in the world has a powerful effect on everything and everyone's life you touch. I'm going to mention other study which is really speaks volumes. The same scientist, Dr. Masaru Emoto, he actually invited and thousands of people all over the planet, actually repeated the experiment, and I invite all of your listeners to do that same thing. What he did, he actually took rice and he boiled it. So the water actually entered into the rice. Okay.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So he took 2 cups of the same rice. And every single day he came to 1 cup and expressed beautiful emotions to love, joy, gratitude, bliss, grace, everything that you can imagine, all the most beautiful emotions he actually expressed to that cup. To the other one, he came every single day and expressed all the negative emotions he can muster. Everything in him, he just laid on that particular cup. And after a week or 10 days, he actually measured the results. The cup of rice is the same rice, the same water, everything the same. That cup actually had a beautiful fermented smell of rice, and you could actually eat that rice after a week. And the other one had visual signs of decay and it was rotting terribly, and it's the same rice.
Hmm.
The only change was the energy or the frequency that was expressed to it on the daily basis. So this is where we understand. This is also very interesting when you ask yourself a question: what is an intelligent being? Intelligent being is the one that responds to external stimuli. That's intelligence. It's very, very powerfully reacting to external stimuli. So it's actually intelligent. Isn't that amazing when you look at it?
Yeah. And I think so when you talk about higher intelligence, it's not just reacting, but then taking
No.
the information, pausing, and then responding well.
Yeah. So this actually, again, just re-emphasized that water is always going to pick up the most dominant
Dominant.
frequency of its
Yeah.
environment. And this
Yeah.
is also, people usually, when they think about water, they usually just go, okay, filtration. And
Yeah.
that does its job. You take out the toxin. But what people don't understand is even if you physically take out the toxin out of the water, the frequency of that toxin is still there.
Yeah.
And when you drink that water, you're actually just putting that same frequency in
Why
your
is
body
the frequency of the toxin still there if you remove the toxin?
because water is always going to pick up the most dominant
Most
frequency of its
Oh, and the
environment,
toxin is
always.
more dominant than
Toxins is dominant because it's
oh.
there.
So you
So
need another dominant source to override it.
that's it. And that's why we created
Leadership.
an Analemma, because an
Yeah.
Analemma clearly makes a
Wow.
clean slate of the water and primes the whole water to enter in this very particular state. And
So when you
yeah,
use the wand, is there a time limit for the water to stay in that high frequencies positive state for you to ingest it? Or does it always stay like that because the wand was in there?
after just one treatment, this is what I mentioned. After just one
Yeah.
treatment, for 6 consecutive years, we measured, and it
It's
never
incredible.
went out of. It really is. It never went out of the state of coherence. But we always say, for instance, for 3 deciliters of water, or let's say 1 cup of water,
Yeah.
you have to swirl for 25 to 30 seconds, just so that we are 100% sure that all of the water inside the cup entered this very particular state. Once it enters, after this 25 to 30 seconds, it never goes back.
Wow. Well, that's incredible. Mario, you've been a joy and a delight in terms of just your time, your energy, the frequency that you vibrate off
Mhm.
of, and just your wisdom for all these years that you've practiced business and then you've evolved yourself and your businesses to serve the world in a better way, in a better light. I just want to say thank you as a
Mhm.
citizen of the world, for doing good and seeking what is better. And I believe that's the gift of business. I think people should be paid very well for serving humanity, and so you're doing that, and I think that's a very, very beautiful thing. uh, in
Mhm.
terms of how do people find out more? What can I do, like, after this conversation? I need to get my hands on some Analemma water. So how do I get this? How do I get the wand? Where are you located, or do I buy everything from a website? Where do people go to get their hands on this so we can start uh, taking our lives to a different level?
So anybody can go to coherent-water.com. And I
Okay.
invite people, since we're doing loads of studies, so we're really going in various directions. If you want to follow our work, just jump on our newsletter, and we're constantly publishing new things. But anybody can come to coherent-water.com. Anybody can buy any of the applications. We're going to actually be coming up with various products as well. So the first one is the wand. We're going to be coming up very soon, in a couple of months, with the Brita-like system. So we're
Love it.
filtering the water and we're bringing it into coherent state. We're going to come with Berkey-like system as well for the drinking water, and we're going to have a flagship model which will kind of be a whole house system that will filter the water and make it coherent. For now, we have a whole house system that you can install in the piping system of your house, and you don't have to swirl. Anywhere where you open the faucet, you actually get coherent water. This is something that we actually haven't touched upon this, which is really, really remarkable, that is connected to the whole house system. So we were wondering, since 99% of our molecules are water, what we're kind of thinking and hypothesizing, what would happen if people will take bath in Analemma water?
Good
Because
question.
you're in it, and like we kind of, something very interesting could happen there. So we connected with Hydrate Spa and Dr. Greg Lane and my dear friend David Perez in San Diego. They have this Dr. Greg Lane has this equipment where they're measuring vitals before and after. So we're doing 100 people study, and the results are phenomenal. We're actually measuring cardiac output, stroke volume, blood viscosity, but more importantly, heart rate variability, because heart rate variability is very, very, very accurate indicator of overall health and wellness and longevity. Every single person in the study experienced an increase in cardiac output, in stroke volume, in blood viscosity, and at least 30% rise in heart rate variability, and even much, much, much more, just by taking a bath in this water. So it was really kind of a huge thing for us, and we are now going to expand on the studies and do many things. But if somebody wants to install the whole house system in their home, then they don't have to, because it will take like a 3 hour swirling of wand through the
Yeah.
bath to make it coherent. But then you just open your faucet and it's there. So I just wanted to mention this, because this really is an exciting part of the whole thing. And we were actually even thinking of start opening clinics when people can actually come and take baths and actually get various other benefits.
Yeah, I'm all for that. I love this. I love that we were able to dissect it, apply it to just the interconnectedness of the world, and
Mm.
how the principles of water demonstrate like how we are as people, like how we conduct ourselves, how we behave. And I love that you were able to just bring this to the world. And if I can help to spread it, I'm so grateful for the opportunity to do that. So thank you for your time. Thank you for your expertise, and thank you for your wisdom today.
Thank you so much, Sabrina, and thank you for being the beacon, because this is what we need. We need to connect with each other and spread the relevant information, something that can truly help the world in this point in time. So I love what you're doing, because business is, we need to transform how we are communicating with each other, how we're communicating with ourselves, and how we're showing up in the world. So your podcast is definitely a powerful medium for that. So thank you for doing the work.
Well,
It
thank
really
you.
is
And
necessary.
I have a lot of work to do. Like I think that's what's great about this whole journey for me. Like being open-minded and improving yourself and improving as a leader as I continue. You know, I make mistakes, but then you can connect with people that
Mm.
grow your wisdom and you make better decisions and you become a better person.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you.